So we'll just jump into each of these. I've got some resources that'll make this a little bit easier for you. But if we start off with the tech tools, here we go. The way I like to think about it is in terms of categories. So you can see there Office Suite, Project Management, SOP Management, Screen Recording, Meetings, and Instant Messaging. So it doesn't matter what tool you use, as long as you have something in place for each of those. Office Suite is your email and your calendar. We happen to use G Suite. Some people use Office 365. Again, it doesn't matter as long as you've got something in place and you set them up with an email that is branded with your company that you have control over. Your project management or task management, we use Asana, but there's Podio, Teamwork PM, Trello. Depending on the size of your team, and even if you're just very small and getting started out, I still think setting up some form of project management platform is a great idea. You want to get out of managing tasks through email. You want to make sure it's clear who is doing what by when, and that is captured in a location. And then we pair that together with our SOP management. Obviously, systemHUB is the right choice there, but the key is to get a system link that describes how that particular task is done. Oftentimes that VA might have been the person who documented it anyway, and then you're saving that link to the system inside the project management where that task is assigned. Now, we talked about making sure that you're looking for essential, repeatable, delegatable tasks. They should be things that are captured inside your project management platform and set to recurring intervals. And then it's assigned to someone and it's due on a particular day. So that's how those tools work. Screen recording, well, we've already touched on Loom, and meetings, I just use Zoom. Instant messaging, look, it's a little bit of up for debate on that. As the team grows larger, like I like the idea of the instant messaging, but I also know teams that operate solely out of their project management platform. So I'd love to know in the chat, because quite a few of these you might already have sorted, but type into the chat if there's any one of those categories that I've mentioned that you don't have sorted. I'm just curious if there's any of the Office Suite, project management, SOP management, screen recording, meetings, or instant messaging. Just type that into the chat. Gives me a little bit of an idea of what tools you might still need to get into place. Of course, the other one, if you're going through this process and you are following the method I recommended as far as starting with a systems champion, you also want to get them into the Business Systems Accelerator. That's the world's first and only training and community for systems champion, and it'll give you very clear frameworks to work on. That's the training that Lenny used with his VA, and that basically said, here, I want you to follow this. Typically, the business owner isn't the best at directing a systems champion. They don't necessarily always know what they should be working on or how to direct them. So the Business Systems Accelerator, and I know a lot of the attendees have access to this, that's why I'm mentioning it, because this is a complimentary training for them, but you want to get that into the hands of your systems champion, and that would actually be one of the first things that they do to work through that particular platform. So that's around the tools. You want to get them set up as we migrate away working from Upwork. The next thing we need to think about is the workflow. These are just a couple of systems that will help you manage productivity of the team members. Now, there are plenty of others, but I will just give you a few essential ones. The first one is you're going to need to be across what is getting done. When you're starting out, probably one of the best ways to do this is through what I call an EOD email, end of day email. It's just a simple request where you ask any team member at the end of the day to send you an email that answers those 4 questions. Tell me the start and stop times. What did you do today? What's on for tomorrow? And do you have any questions? If it takes more than 10 minutes, the team member is putting too much detail into it. It's very telling up front around someone's attention to detail and if they can follow simple instructions. I've got a little screenshot there of what an EOD could look like. You can find one that works for you, but if a team member can't do the simple, they're not going to be able to do the complex. And an EOD every day that talks about what they've done and what they're going to do, and if they've got any questions, is a simple task. So that's one of the first things I'd put in place when you move them off and start working direct. Next, I'd be looking at having weekly calls. And it's probably going to be more at the start. You could work towards, like where Den mentioned his relationship is with Milka, different horses for different courses. Everybody, like, you'll have to find what works for you. In the early days, though, meeting regularly to get someone up to speed and on track and answer questions and making them feel connected. Once you're kind of into the groove, I generally think about weekly. I suggest having a weekly one-on-one with them, and then a weekly team meeting, depending on the size of your team, as you start to get a little bit bigger. That just helps to keep everybody connected. You want to get it onto the calendar so that everybody is across it and everybody attends. But yes, getting those combination of the EODs and then those weekly calls gives you a great indicator of their follow through and their commitment to you as well. But again, a lot of this, you're going to have figured out commitment based on going through the VA sourcing system that I shared with you. The next one I've got here is around delegation. And I've got a link to a system here that I recorded for Febby as I'm starting to train up Febby around delegating tasks out. We had a meeting and we went through a range of different things so that she gets great at delegating. You need to master this skill. It's also one of the reasons why I say about recording everything, because I actually think one of the best ways to communicate with someone that might not be sitting right next to you is through the video. I always try and think, how can I delegate someone fully and completely in the least possible moves? And that for me is through video, but you do have to get comfortable with it. And there's a couple of rules on that system there that I've got a link to around doing one task at a time, as far as you're delegating things out, thinking about providing all of the necessary information up front, putting yourself in the shoes of the team member and what will they need, giving them examples of what success looks like or that task being completed, and even a little checklist. Like some of those points that I've just talked about there really are the great elements of an SOP. So over time, you might start off when you're delegating things where you've got a higher skilled team member and it's a once-off task that might not have an SOP attached to it. You would use something like this. Longer term, though, as you start to get some SOPs in place, that's a great way for you to be delegating out tasks. You just say, here, I've got a process for how this is done. And then they just follow the process. So there are some tips on that. I hope you enjoyed that clip. Just a heads up, it was a snippet taken from the Business Systems Accelerator program, which is the world's first training for systems champions to help you build a systems-driven organization. If you'd like to find out more about the program, head over to systemology.com/BSA, and I'll see you in the next video.